Let's talk to God.
When God is silent, it can feel like the whole world is holding its breath around you, as if every unanswered prayer echoes in the chambers of your heart, and every step forward feels heavier than the last. Yet in this quiet place, your soul begins to discover that silence is not abandonment, but a holy pause where God is doing a deeper work than your eyes can see. And even when your thoughts tremble at the possibility of being forgotten, heaven is whispering over you, a love that has never left your side. So as you come before Him now, allow your heart to soften and open, and if you feel moved, share your burden with Him in this moment as a way of saying, Lord, I'm here, and I'm still holding on. Because He receives every whisper you offer and turns it into something sacred, weaving strength into your weakness as you breathe slowly, and let His unseen presence quiet the storm inside you. And even if the silence feels long, He is nearer than your pulse, holding you gently in a place where hope is being rebuilt from the inside out, preparing your soul to sense Him again, not through sound, but through a peace that rises softly like morning light. There are seasons when God's silence feels like a closed door, a dimly lit room where your thoughts roam without answers, and your heart wonders if your prayers have vanished into the air. Yet in this tender stillness, He is shaping your endurance, teaching your soul to recognize Him not by noise but by presence. And as you breathe through this quiet valley, let yourself lean gently into Him, and if your heart longs for it, whisper a simple, Lord, stay with me tonight, because even the smallest surrender becomes a bridge between your exhaustion and His comfort, filling the unseen spaces of your life with a strength that does not announce itself loudly, but settles deep like a warm light beneath your ribs, reminding you that the God who formed galaxies is also holding your trembling hopes with infinite care, preparing something within you that can only be born in the quiet. And even though answers haven't arrived yet, the story is still unfolding in hands far more loving than you can imagine. There are moments when the silence stretches so long that your heart starts to question its own faith, wondering if maybe you misheard God, or hoped for too much, or believed too deeply. Yet even in these fragile hours, He is closer than every doubt rising within you, holding your shaken spirit with a patience that never runs dry. And as you sit in this quiet space that feels like waiting without end, allow your soul to lean into the truth that love does not disappear when it grows silent. And if something inside you feels called to respond, breathe out softly and say, Lord, don't let me walk this valley alone. For that small reaching becomes a doorway through which His comfort enters, settling into the parts of you that ache the most, reminding you that every unanswered prayer is still heard and every tear is still noticed. And while you cannot yet trace His hand, His heart is already working for you in ways too tender and too profound to reveal all at once. There are nights when the weight of God's silence presses so heavily on your chest that even breathing feels like a quiet battle. When the questions you never say out loud grow louder in the stillness, and the ache beneath your ribs whispers that maybe you've been overlooked. Yet even here, God is folding His presence around you in ways that do not startle the soul, but soothe it, like a gentle hand resting on a trembling heart. And as you sit with the stillness that feels too deep to understand, let yourself offer Him even the smallest reaching. And if you feel it rise within you, whisper, Lord, I need you to hold me through this, because that simple cry opens a sacred space where His peace begins to settle like warm light on cold ground, reminding you that silence is not the absence of love, but the place where roots grow, where faith thickens, and where the unseen becomes the foundation that will one day carry you into a season overflowing with answers you once feared would never come. There comes a point in the journey where the silence of God feels almost personal, as if heaven itself has stepped back and the prayers you once spoke with confidence now fall from your lips in a quiet tremble. Yet even in this tender uncertainty, God is nearer than your doubts dare to believe, watching over every fragile hope you hold and strengthening what you cannot see growing inside you. And as you sit in this place where answers seem distant, Let your heart rest for a moment in the truth that silence can be the soft room where God heals what words cannot touch. And if something within you feels the need to reach out, breathe gently and say, "Lord, meet me here in the quiet." For that quiet reaching becomes a lantern in the darkness, lighting the path He walks beside you even when your eyes cannot trace His steps, reminding you that every season of waiting is woven with purpose, and nothing in your life is ignored by the one who holds your future with unwavering tenderness. There are days when the silence feels like an unanswered knock on heaven's door, when you keep showing up with trembling prayers, and the stillness that returns to you feels almost cruel. Yet even in this delicate ache, God is gathering every whispered plea, holding each one with a reverence deeper than your longing, working in the hidden rooms of your life where your eyes cannot follow. And as your heart leans into this slow, quiet place of trust, let yourself breathe in the certainty that silence is not a dismissal, but a preparation. And if you sense the need to open your soul just a little more, allow yourself to whisper, "Lord, stay close to me even when I don't hear you." For that small surrender becomes a gentle bridge between your exhaustion and His faithfulness, reminding you that He is crafting something sacred in the shadows, shaping strength within you that only grows in stillness. And though your world may feel hushed right now, heaven is far from silent about you. There are moments when the silence lingers so long that hope itself begins to feel thin, when you wonder if maybe God has placed you on pause while life keeps moving for everyone else. Yet even here, in this quiet stretch of uncertainty, He is gathering your fears like fragile threads and weaving them into something stronger than you ever imagined. And as you sit with these unspoken questions that echo softly inside your chest, let yourself rest in the truth that the silence of God is not abandonment, but craftsmanship, the slow shaping of a miracle still in its early form. And if your soul feels the need to reach out even with trembling hands, breathe gently and say, "Lord, help me trust you in this quiet." For that quiet openness becomes a tender offering He receives with infinite compassion, surrounding you with a presence that may not shout but surely holds, guiding your weary heart toward a future He is preparing with love too deep to rush. There are seasons when the silence becomes so familiar that you almost forget what it felt like to sense God's nearness. And in that forgotten space, your heart may wonder if you somehow drifted too far or prayed too softly. Yet even in this unspoken ache, He is surrounding you with the presence that chooses not to overwhelm, but to steady you from within, like the quiet warmth that lingers long after a comforting embrace. And as you rest in this place that feels both holy and painfully still, allow your soul to release the pressure to understand everything. And if something inside you stirs with longing, whisper, "Lord, let me feel your nearness again," because that small reaching becomes a doorway through which His gentle peace begins to move, reminding you that silence is often the canvas where God paints the beginnings of restoration, not with noise, but with the deep, steady love that transforms you long before the answers arrive. There are parts of your heart that only surface in the quiet, places you didn't know were still hurting until God's silence gave them room to speak. And though it feels unsettling to sit with what rises inside you, He is tenderly uncovering these hidden wounds not to expose you, but to heal you in ways noise could never reach. And as these emotions lift like fragile dust in a shaft of light, let yourself breathe gently through the discomfort. And if your soul feels a soft pull toward Him, whisper, "Lord, I offer you what I don't know how to fix," because that simple yielding becomes a sacred invitation for His love to move through the broken spaces of your story, reminding you that silence is not a void, but a sanctuary where He works with delicate patience, rebuilding what life has fractured and preparing your heart for a peace that is being shaped long before you recognize its arrival. There are moments when the silence presses against your spirit like a weight you can't quite name, when your thoughts wander through unanswered questions and your heart aches for even a faint reassurance. Yet God is not distant in this hush. He is tracing the contours of your pain with a compassion that holds you even when you cannot feel it, guiding you gently through the quiet so your faith can root itself deeper than emotion. And as you move through this soft, strange stillness, allow your heart to rest without forcing clarity. And if you feel a small longing rise within your chest, whisper, "Lord, don't let go of me in this silence." For that honest reaching opens the way for His peace to settle slowly like dawn over dark waters, reminding you that He is not ignoring your prayers, but preparing the strength you'll need for what He has already aligned ahead of you, shaping hope in the hidden places where His greatest works often begin. There are days when the silence feels like a long, unbroken road stretching beyond your sight, and you wonder how much farther your heart can walk without hearing even a whisper from God. Yet in this quiet, He is strengthening the very parts of you that once felt too fragile to endure, teaching you that faith is not the absence of questions, but the courage to keep walking with them. And as the stillness wraps itself around your tired spirit, let yourself lean gently into the truth that God is never inactive. He is simply working in ways that don't make noise, shaping outcomes you would not believe even if He tried to explain them now. And if a longing rises slowly within you, whisper, "Lord, stay close to my heart even when I can't see the way." For that tender reaching becomes a place where His presence settles like warm light on cold ground, reminding you that every silent mile is leading you somewhere He has already prepared with love too faithful to fail. There are seasons when the silence of God stretches deeper than your understanding, when your soul feels suspended between what you prayed for and what has yet to unfold, leaving you wondering if you've somehow missed His voice or drifted outside His attention. Yet even in this vulnerable uncertainty, He is holding your life with a steadiness that does not waver, guiding the unseen threads of your story with a wisdom far gentler and wiser than timing you can measure. And as you sit inside this quiet tension that feels both holy and heavy, allow your heart to rest for a moment without demanding answers. And if a longing rises quietly within you, whisper, "Lord, help me breathe through this waiting," because that honest surrender becomes a soft doorway through which His peace enters, reminding you that silence is not the absence of His care, but the room where He prepares your spirit for the breakthroughs that can only blossom when the soil of your faith has deepened enough to hold them. There are times when the silence feels like a mirror reflecting every fragile part of your heart, showing you the places where fear still trembles and hope struggles to stand. Yet even in this exposed stillness, God is not pulling away. He is gently forming resilience within you, teaching your soul to recognize His presence, not by sound, but by the quiet strength that rises when you least expect it. And as you sit with this tender vulnerability that silence brings, let yourself breathe without rushing the moment. For God often speaks the loudest in the spaces where your defenses fall. And if something within you aches for reassurance, whisper, "Lord, don't forget me here," because that small, trembling prayer becomes a sacred doorway through which His compassion moves, settling into the ache with a comfort that doesn't erase the waiting but fills it with purpose, reminding you that even in the quiet, heaven has never taken its eyes off you. There are moments when God's silence feels like standing on the edge of a vast, unmoving horizon, where nothing changes, nothing stirs, and your heart wonders if your prayers have been placed on hold indefinitely. Yet even in this unmoving landscape, God is working below the surface, shaping roots of faith that can withstand storms you don't yet see coming. And as you stand in this quiet stretching of your spirit, allow yourself to lean gently into the truth that silence is not stagnation. It is preparation, the sacred ground where trust matures. And if a soft longing rises inside you, whisper, "Lord, teach me to trust you even when nothing shifts," because that tender reaching becomes the place where His peace begins to flow slowly through the cracks of your uncertainty, reminding you that He is forming something strong and steady within you, something that could never have grown in seasons filled only with immediate answers. There are seasons when the silence becomes almost overwhelming, when the absence of clear direction makes you feel as though you are standing in a room with no doors, no windows, only the echo of your own questions circling back to you. Yet even here, God is not distant. He is gently teaching your soul to find Him in ways that do not depend on outward signs, inviting you into a deeper knowing that grows only in quiet places. And as you breathe through this stillness that stretches your faith, let yourself release the pressure to understand, trusting that even unanswered questions are held in His capable hands. And if a quiet ache rises inside you, whisper, "Lord, lead me through what I cannot see." For that small reaching becomes a tender space where His comfort flows softly, wrapping around the parts of you that fear being forgotten, reminding you that He is guiding you step by step, even when the path feels hidden beneath the silence. There are days when the silence feels like a gentle but unyielding fog, soft enough not to break you, yet thick enough to obscure every certainty you once held. And in that hazy stretch, your heart wonders if God has stepped back or if you have somehow wandered beyond His voice. Yet even in this muted landscape, He is walking beside you with a tenderness that does not demand to be felt to be real, steadying your soul with a presence that anchors you beneath the noise of doubt. And as you move through this quiet place that tests your patience and deepens your longing, allow yourself to breathe without forcing clarity, trusting that even the fog obeys His hand. And if a soft yearning stirs within you, whisper, "Lord, let your peace find me here." But for that gentle reaching opens a sacred space where His calm begins to settle slowly, reminding you that silence is not abandonment, but the quiet shaping of a heart being prepared to hear Him more deeply than ever before. There are moments when the silence feels like a pause that stretches the soul thin, where your prayers seem to hover unanswered, and your heart aches for even the faintest sign that God is moving. Yet within this delicate stillness, He is tending to the deepest layers of your spirit, with a patience that refuses to rush your healing or your growth, shaping you with love too wise to speak before the time is right. And as you stand in this quiet tension between longing and trust, allow your heart to soften rather than harden, knowing that silence often precedes revelation. And if a tremble of hope rises within you, whisper, "Lord, hold my heart steady while I wait," because that honest vulnerability becomes a doorway for His nearness to flow, reminding you that He has not stepped away, but is preparing the very moment when His voice will break the quiet and remind you that you were never, not even for a second, alone. There comes a sacred moment in the silence where your heart, weary from waiting and tender from longing, finally begins to sense that God has been nearer in the quiet than He ever seemed in the noise, holding every unanswered prayer, every trembling hope, every fragile piece of faith with a love that has never loosened its grip. And in this gentle realization, something within you softens, understanding that His silence was never distance but the deep work of a Father leading you towards strength you didn't know you were gaining. And as this truth settles softly over your spirit like dawn light easing across a dark horizon, let yourself breathe in the assurance that He is with you. For even now His presence surrounds you more fully than your emotions can measure. And if a quiet longing rises, whisper, "Lord, I surrender this waiting into your hands." And for that offering opens your heart to the peace He has been preparing for you all along, reminding you that the God who seemed silent has been faithfully speaking through every moment of your story, in ways your soul is only now beginning to hear. And now, may the gentle peace of the Father rest upon you. May the love of Jesus hold you close, and may the Holy Spirit breathe calm and clarity into every silent place within you. Amen.
Breathe for a moment. God is here. He wants to hear you. If this touched your heart, subscribe for more.